I think we can all agree that the Hellcat is undoubtedly one of the craziest engines ever built. But unfortunately, its going rate is around $50,000 even for a 2015 model of Charger Hellcat. And yes, although it pushes 707 horsepower and 650 foot-pounds of torque, it may be a bit too rich for us subscribers here at Ideal. But don't abandon all hope just yet, because there are some cars out there that are faster than the Hellcat, and for the cheap too. Because in this video, I'm gonna take you through 6 cheap cars that'll make you forget all about that Hellcat. And plus, we're bringing back the honorable mention that's even faster than a Bugatti. Yeah, I got your attention now. Buckle up, and let's go. So the only way to really start off this list is with a supercar. Yeah, you heard me right, a supercar that's cheaper than a Hellcat. Hear me out, because today, by using the Ideal Car strategies, you can buy an R35 Nissan GTR for cheaper than a brand new Hellcat. And sure, the GTR is an entry-level supercar, but if power and style at an affordable price sounds good to you, the GTR is an absolute gem. And unlike its older generations, the R35 ditches the inline configuration and opts for a V6, making it good for nearly 500 horsepower, and that's in stock trim. And you can blitz 0 to 60 in just 3.5 seconds. But what's even crazier than the acceleration of the R35 is how it handles on the track. I've driven a few and it kind of feels like a good iPhone. You know, it just does everything well, but it doesn't give you a ton of feedback. And if you're trying to show off, there's no better platform than the GTR. Whether you're a race car driver or a weekend warrior, the R35 is bound to step up your skills. You see, the fastest lap for the Hellcat around the Nürburgring was 7 minutes and 51 seconds, which isn't too shabby, especially for a car that was imported from Detroit. But what does the GTR do? A 745? A 730? Nope, a 724. Yes, 7 minutes and 24 seconds. That's all it took to go around the ring. And if I do that math pretty quick, that's like 30 seconds faster than the Hellcat, which means that they aren't even in comparative classes, because the GTR is also faster than one of the most badass street legal race cars ever built. This puppy, the Maserati MC12. And if you want an MC12, well, you're looking at a multi-million-dollar bill, because these things are expensive. Well, and because there's only 50 in the world, but as far as the GTR goes, you can get a low mileage example for right around 50 grand. Check out this premium GTR we found on AutoTEMPEST for $52,500. And if you want to see our favorite picks on AutoTEMPEST, click down in the description or the first comment, because I've linked to all of my favorite. What's that? You don't want all the flash and style of a supercar? Okay, yeah, I get it. I mean, I don't get it, but the point for some people is, well, they want to be humble. And I think I know exactly what you need a dose of. Some EV, specifically a Tesla Model S P85D. Because do you know how fast a Hellcat goes from 0 to 60? 3.7 seconds. Which is very quick, but it's not as impressive as a Tesla Model S P85D, because you may or may not have heard of this little thing called ludicrous mode. And it makes that P85D blast off to 60 in just 3.1 seconds. And while it can definitely melt your face off with acceleration, it really actually is a nice everyday electric car. It's just unfortunate that batteries weigh a lot, because if these things were light and they handled as well as they accelerated, game over. But remember, by buying an electric car, you're actually saving the planet. And so you don't feel bad when you plant your foot down to the floor and you take your friend's Hellcat to Gapplebee's. And new, a Model S P85D would have set you back more than 100 grand. But thanks to depreciation, this car used is an absolute steal. Check out this one with just over 50,000 miles on it for less than 40 grand. But the one thing about Teslas that really surprised me is that they're really quick from like 0 to 40 or 50, but from 60 to 80, they actually aren't all that quick, because it's a 2-pedal car with only 1 forward gear. So it can't downshift and then accelerate, where the Porsche Taycan does have 2 gears, not just 1, so it can downshift. But what if you want more than 1 or 2 forward gears? And what if you want something that's a little bit more badass? You know, like American Muscle badass. Well, what's more badass than a Corvette Z06? Or is it Z? Well, that is the vehicle that is up next on this list, because Chevy took an awesome little Corvette, amped it up to 11 with way more power and a 6-speed manual transmission, and made one of the most capable vehicles of its time. Now, that engine in that thing is legendary. It's the LS7, which is a 427 cubic inch V8. And I want you guys to let me know, does it sound even better than the Hellcat motor? Yeah, I don't know, Hellcat or Z06? Let us know down below. And also, if you're enjoying this video, please hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. We're trying to get to 20,843 likes on this video. So by you hitting that like button, helps us out a ton. And not only is the Corvette Z06 cheaper than a Hellcat, it's faster too, because 0 to 60 takes only 3.5 seconds, which is about 2/10 faster than your stock Hellcat. And you remember how I said the Hellcat did 7 minutes and 51 seconds at the Nürburgring? Well, the Z06 wasn't as fast as the GTR, you know, the iPhone on wheels, but this was nearly 15 years ago, and it only did it in 7 minutes and 40 seconds, which is blistering quick. Now, one place where it is lacking in that C6 is the interior. GM has never been known for making quality interiors. Well, until that C8 rolled out, that interior is pretty much as good as the Italian competitors. But back in the mid-2000s, it's a bit lackluster. And the Z06 is kind of the ideal deal of the decade right now for performance, because you can find one easily today for less than 30 grand. And let me do the math real quick. 505 horsepower, 200 plus miles per hour, under 30 grand? Yeah, that's definitely an ideal deal, especially before I change your mind with this next vehicle, which is also a Chevy. And it may or may not have even better dollar to horsepower value. It's the CAMARO ZL1. Now, one thing I'm just gonna throw out there, Corvette versus CAMARO, the one nice thing about the CAMARO is that it has back seats. Since it has 4 seats, it's gonna be cheaper on insurance, but the Corvette, even though it does have a big trunk, it's not the greatest daily driver, where the CAMARO and the ZL1 might be the perfect daily driver. And although the ZL1 isn't as powerful as the Hellcat, I mean, it is hard to compete when a Hellcat's cranking out 700 plus horsepower, but then again, a CAMARO ZL1 is not putting out low numbers either, because the Chevy engineers hooked this thing up with a whole 580 horses. Now, I gotta come clean with you guys. A stock ZL1 is not gonna beat a Hellcat to 60, or even in the quarter mile.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And luckily, the aftermarket for the ZL1 is huge. So it's actually easier to find a built one nowadays than it is a stock one. And if you add some pulleys, cams, a full exhaust, and a tune, you can expect 770 horsepower out of your ZL1. And at that point, you're gonna be able to blow the Hellcat out of the water. I mean, you know that cats don't really like water anyway, so that's quite the feat. Now, the CAMARO is faster than the Hellcat in one area, and that's around the Nürburgring. Believe it or not, it was 10 seconds faster than the Chrysler product. And that's with a completely stock 6.2 liter V8. If you add some goodies under the hood, you can expect that time to go down and that fun factor to go up. Plus, again, value per dollar, you can get this thing on the cheap. Here's a sinister spec for just over $25,000. And so what do you do with all the money you saved over buying a Hellcat? Well, you take about 10 grand and you sprinkle it on there with mods, and now you have, well, one of the fastest cars on earth. But I know some of you subscribers that hit us up on Ideal Media Official on Instagram, and you don't really like Chevys, and I get it. And a lot of you guys are dead loyal Ford fanboys, which, if that's the case, you already know exactly what I'm gonna say. The Ford Shelby GT500. And Ford partnered with Shelby to make potentially the most badass street car ever. And they took a stock Mustang GT, strapped on a supercharger, and then they brought it to market. And that supercharged 5.4 liter V8 is good for 550 horsepower and 510 foot-pounds of torque. Yeehaw. No, seriously. Yeehaw! And because of that forced induction, well, it is primed for a few aftermarket modifications, which will crush a Hellcat. And plus, you get to put down all that power via a smooth shifting 6-speed manual. And if you're ready to fix it or repair it daily, then you should scoop up this clean one with less than 50,000 miles on it for just 30 grand. I mean, come on. That's a steal. But if you know me, well, and you should because you're subscribed, I'm a big fan of European cars. And since we've been stuck in the States for a little while, I think it's time to take a flight over to Germany and check out if they have anything that can whoop up on a Hellcat. And I know we've bashed on the E60 M5 a ton on this channel, but that doesn't mean it's a bad vehicle. Well, I mean, if you could throw reliability out the window, it's not a bad vehicle at all. It's like a four-door supercar. And if you roll up next to a Hellcat in one of these German missiles, you're gonna get their panties in a bunch. I mean, the E60 M5 does only come with 500 horsepower, but that's German horsepower out of a naturally aspirated V10 that sounds like an F1 car. And if you like to turn that dial up from mild to wild, well, you supercharge that S85. And if you want to go from wild and then turn that up to 11, well, you strap a pair of turbos on it. And what do you have? 800, 900, 1200 horsepower? Not even close. What's absolutely bonkers is some Norwegians at VS Motor took a 5-liter E60 M5 motor, de-stroked it to 4.8 liters, then added some twins and strapped it to a dyno. And believe it or not, they got it up to 1851 horsepower, which beats a Bugatti Chiron and the world's fastest car, the SEC Tuatara. Well, there's an asterisk, because for one, I can't pronounce it, and two, is it actually the world's fastest car? Okay, and let's bring it back down to ground level, because I know most of us are not gonna be making those types of mods to our BMW. But it's cool to know what that motor is actually capable of, because it does get a bad rap with the reliability, and yet it's one of the best sounding and most capable motors that BMW has ever made. Oh wait, what? N54 has just entered the chat? Okay. Naturally aspirated motors that BMW has ever made. And back in the mid-2000s, an E60 M5 was gonna set you back roughly $80,000 new. But today you can find them for a lot less than that. I really like this one for $16,000. That is this beautiful Indianapolis red metallic and has under 100,000 miles, which is the perfect time to throw a ton of money at it and do the throttle control actuators and the rod bearings, because they probably haven't been done, and well, it's not if, but when they blow up. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's a great idea, but this next one, which is our honorable mention, is perfect if you want to out accelerate pretty much anything that you line up against. And you only want to pay 10 grand to do it. Now, you probably think I've completely lost it, which I kind of have, but I forgot to mention that it's not a car. It only has 2 wheels. Yeah, we're talking about a Suzuki, the Hayabusa. You see, the Hayabusa is very fast, like really fast, thanks to its 1,340 cubic inch engine. And yes, the figures, if you're a car guy, are not really all that staggering. I mean, it has less than 200 horsepower and not even 140 foot-pounds of torque, but it doesn't need it because it's not moving a whole lot of weight, only 550 pounds. Plus the rider. And so when you think of it, it has a power to weight ratio of 0.35, which beats out Stradman's Bugatti Veyron, which has a 0.24 power to weight ratio. And of course, it beats out a Hellcat's, which is only 0.15. So you tell me, is it worth going to 2 wheels or just one with a wheelie? And the fact that you can get a Hayabusa for just 7,500 bucks, I don't know. That's pretty crazy, pretty bonkers. And personally, I don't see myself riding a motorcycle, but anytime you see a bike, well, you gotta give it respect. And if it were me picking a car from this list, my ideal pick would easily be the C6 Z06. I've always enjoyed those, and in fact, when I was gonna buy my 997, 911, I was also looking for a C6 Z06, and I did put a down payment on one, but the pre-purchase inspection didn't come back the way I wanted it. So it was a hard pass, and I don't regret my decision at all, but you know, it's a new year, new me. So maybe, well, maybe. Let us know what you would pick down below. And also, if you're new here, please subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and like this video so we get over 20,000 likes. I hope you enjoyed watching, and keep living the ideal lifestyle.